September 17th, 1944, 14:35 hours. Farm Lane, near Eindhoven, Netherlands. Oberfeldwebel Ernst Kuhn commanded the lead Panzer IV in a column advancing to reinforce German positions threatened by British airborne landings. The terrain favored defenders. Narrow lanes bordered by drainage ditches, limited visibility, numerous positions where anti-tank guns could be concealed. Kuhn's orders were to advance quickly but carefully, watching for the British anti-tank screens that always appeared when armor tried to move through contested areas. His gunner spotted a vehicle in a farmyard 200 meters ahead. Low silhouette, no turret visible, what appeared to be a large gun mounted on an obsolete chassis. The gun was pointed away from them, facing the wrong direction, as if the vehicle had been positioned backwards or was abandoned with its main weapon inoperable. Kuhn studied it through his optics. Valentine chassis, he thought. The British had stopped using those as combat tanks. This was probably a knocked-out vehicle the crew had abandoned after mechanical failure. Driver, proceed slowly. Gunner, keep watching that wreck in case there's an anti-tank team using it for cover. Kuhn felt confident. If British anti-tank guns were positioned here, they'd be facing his direction, ready to engage. A vehicle with its gun pointed the wrong way represented no threat. The Valentine-like vehicle suddenly fired. The muzzle flash came from the rear-facing gun, and Kuhn had perhaps half a second to process that this made no sense before the 17-pounder round struck his Panzer's frontal armor and penetrated. The impact killed his gunner instantly. Kuhn, wounded and deafened, watched through clearing smoke as the British vehicle reversed at surprising speed, disappearing behind the farmhouse before his surviving crew members could respond. The second Panzer in the column tried to engage, but couldn't acquire a target. The British vehicle had simply vanished backwards, using its reverse gear as primary escape mechanism. The entire engagement lasted perhaps 5 seconds. One German tank destroyed, crew casualties, and an enemy vehicle that had fired while facing away and then escaped before retaliation was possible. Kuhn survived his wounds and was captured 2 weeks later when British forces overran the field hospital where he was recovering. During his interrogation, he kept returning to the strange vehicle that had destroyed his tank. It fired backwards. The gun faced the wrong way, but it shot at us and hit us perfectly. Then, it just reversed away like that was normal. I've never seen a vehicle behave like that. What kind of tank runs away backwards? The British intelligence officer's answer was simple. It's not a tank, it's an Archer, and the gun faces backwards deliberately. That's the whole point. The problem that required backwards thinking. By 1943, British armored forces faced increasingly difficult tactical challenges against German armor. The Wehrmacht was fielding heavier tanks with thicker armor and longer-range guns. Panthers and Tigers could engage British armor at distances where British tanks couldn't effectively return fire. Even upgraded German Panzer IVs with long-barrel 75mm guns outranged most British tank weapons. The tactical reality was stark. German armor could destroy British tanks before British tanks could close to effective engagement range. The solution was the 17-pounder anti-tank gun, a weapon powerful enough to penetrate German heavy armor at reasonable combat distances. The gun fired a 3-kilogram projectile at high velocity, generating enough kinetic energy to defeat the frontal armor of most German tanks and the side armor of even the heaviest vehicles. Toad's 17-pounders proved effective but vulnerable, requiring time to deploy and reposition. British planners needed the 17-pounder mounted on a mobile platform that could move quickly, engage effectively, and survive on the modern battlefield. Mounting the 17-pounder on existing tank chassis presented immediate problems. The gun was enormous, nearly 4 meters long without the muzzle brake, weighing over 1.5 tons. It generated tremendous recoil that required substantial mounting structure to absorb. Turret mounting was ideal, but required designing an entirely new turret large enough to house the gun and strong enough to handle its recoil. Development work that would take years. Britain needed tank destroyers immediately, not after lengthy development programs. The engineering solution emerged from deliberately abandoning conventional assumptions about how armored fighting vehicles should be configured. Instead of mounting the gun in a turret, British designers created a fixed mounting on a vehicle chassis. Instead of pointing the gun forward like every other military vehicle, they pointed it backwards. The result was the Archer, a tank destroyer that violated every normal design principle, yet proved devastatingly effective precisely because of its unconventional configuration. The Valentine tank chassis provided the platform. This was obsolete as a combat tank by 1943 standards. Too lightly armored, too slow, mounting a gun too weak for anti-tank work. But the chassis was reliable, readily available from existing production lines, and mechanically sound. British engineers removed the turret entirely, built an open-topped fighting compartment on the hull, and mounted the 17-pounder facing rearward. The crew would fight the vehicle by positioning it facing away from the enemy, firing, then immediately reversing to escape. The design looked absurd. Contemporary observers assumed the gun was mounted backwards by mistake, or that the vehicle was some kind of elaborate joke. Even British crews selected for Archer training initially thought they were being assigned to defective equipment. The concept of deliberately fighting a vehicle in reverse contradicted every doctrine about how armored forces operated. Yet the more the concept was tested, the more its tactical advantages became apparent. The backwards gun that made perfect sense. The Archer's reverse-facing armament transformed apparent design flaw into tactical advantage. Conventional tank destroyers had to turn their entire vehicle to disengage after firing, a maneuver that took time and exposed their more vulnerable side and rear armor. The Archer simply reversed away at full speed, approximately 20 kilometers per hour, while maintaining its most heavily armored aspect toward the enemy. The vehicle was already positioned for rapid escape before it even fired. The tactical employment doctrine emphasized ambush warfare. Archer crews would select firing positions with good reverse routes, farm lanes with rear exits, forest edges with tree cover behind them, urban positions with multiple withdrawal routes. The vehicle would wait in concealment until German armor presented favorable targets. Fire, reverse immediately into prepared cover, relocate to alternate position. The entire cycle could be completed in seconds, often before German forces could identify the Archer's position accurately. The low silhouette contributed to survivability. The Archer stood barely 2 meters tall, substantially lower than contemporary tanks. German observers at tactical ranges often mistook it for a knocked-out vehicle, a supply truck, or debris. The unusual configuration confused target identification even when the vehicle was partially exposed. German gunners trained to recognize tank silhouettes by turret shape found the turretless Archer difficult to categorize quickly, and that half-second of confusion often meant the Archer fired first. The 17-pounder's ballistic performance gave Archer crews confidence to engage the heaviest German armor. At 500 meters, a typical engagement range in Western European terrain, the gun could penetrate 150 millimeters of armor plate. This was sufficient to defeat Panther frontal armor if the shot struck well, and more than adequate against Panther side armor or any aspect of Panzer IV armor. Tigers were vulnerable from the sides and rear. Even the massive King Tiger could be damaged by well-placed shots. Archer crews knew that if they achieved surprise and fired accurately, they could kill anything the Wehrmacht fielded. The limitations were accepted as necessary compromises. The vehicle was slow, with maximum road speed around 30 kilometers per hour. The open fighting compartment provided no overhead protection and limited protection from artillery fragments. The crew of 4 worked in cramped conditions, with the massive gun breech dominating the interior space. Ammunition stowage was limited to 39 rounds, requiring careful fire discipline. Yet these drawbacks mattered less than the advantages: the ability to kill heavy German armor from ambush positions and escape before the enemy could respond effectively. British crews developed techniques that exploited the Archer's unique characteristics. They practiced rapid reverses until backing up at high speed became instinctive. They learned to identify positions that looked innocuous from the German perspective, but offered excellent reverse routes. They mastered the art of firing and displacing so quickly that German observers couldn't track their movement. The Archer became an extension of the crew's tactical thinking rather than a limitation on it. Normandy, where ambush warfare proved itself. The Archer entered combat during the Normandy campaign in late summer 1944. The terrain, bocage country with its dense hedgerows, sunken lanes, and limited sightlines, proved ideal for the vehicle's ambush tactics. British and Canadian forces employed Archers as part of anti-tank screens, protecting infantry advances, and as mobile reserves that could respond quickly to German armor threats. The first combat employment validated the concept immediately. German armor, advancing through hedgerow country, encountered what appeared to be abandoned British vehicles in farm lanes and field edges. When they approached to investigate or bypass these apparent wrecks, 17-pounder rounds would strike from the rear-facing guns, followed by the abandoned vehicles reversing rapidly into hedgerows or around buildings. German tank commanders reported being engaged by enemy vehicles they never clearly saw and couldn't pursue effectively. One engagement near Caumont demonstrated the Archer's tactical effectiveness. A British infantry position came under attack from a mixed force of Panzer IVs and Stug assault guns. 3 Archers positioned in farm buildings along the German line of advance waited until the German armor was within 300 meters. The first Archer destroyed the lead Panzer with a single shot, then reversed through a barn and exited behind it. The second Archer engaged a Stug that was attempting to locate the first gun, penetrated its side armor, then reversed into a sunken lane. The third Archer held fire, waiting until German infantry began to advance, then fired on a command vehicle and withdrew. The entire engagement lasted less than 3 minutes. 3 German armored vehicles destroyed, no British casualties, and German forces withdrew, believing they'd encountered a substantial anti-tank position rather than 3 vehicles. The psychological impact on German crews was significant. Wehrmacht soldiers were accustomed to British anti-tank guns that revealed their positions when they fired and remained in place for follow-up shots. The Archers' shoot-and-scoot tactics created persistent uncertainty. German armor advancing through contested terrain had to treat every suspicious position as a potential Archer ambush, slowing their advance and disrupting their tactical cohesion. The fear of being engaged by an invisible enemy that could kill and disappear within seconds affected German operational tempo measurably. British after-action reports from Normandy consistently praised Archer performance. One anti-tank unit commander noted, "The Archer allows us to engage German armor on favorable terms regardless of terrain. The crews position vehicles in locations where conventional self-propelled guns couldn't operate effectively. The rapid displacement after firing means we rarely take counter-fire. German forces seem genuinely confused by the vehicle's behavior, which provides tactical advantage beyond the gun's inherent capability. Holland. Urban fighting and the reverse advantage. The fighting in Dutch towns and cities during autumn 1944 created ideal conditions for archer employment. Urban terrain provided abundant cover, multiple withdrawal routes, and restricted fields of view that limited German ability to acquire and engage British positions at range. Archer crews exploited these conditions ruthlessly. The tactical pattern repeated across numerous engagements. Archers would position in buildings, alleys, or behind urban obstacles with clear reverse routes into adjacent structures or streets. German armor attempting to advance through urban areas would be engaged from unexpected angles, through windows, from around corners, down streets the Germans thought were clear. The 17-pounder rounds would strike German armor at close ranges, where even heavy armor was vulnerable, followed immediately by the archer reversing out of line of sight before German infantry or supporting armor could respond. One engagement in Eindhoven became legendary among British anti-tank crews. An archer, positioned inside a destroyed warehouse, faced its gun through a large door opening toward the street behind the building. When a German Panther advanced down the street on the opposite side, the archer crew simply reversed out the back of the warehouse, crossed the rear street, and fired through an alley at the Panther's side armor from 70 meters distance. The penetrating hit disabled the Panther, and the archer continued reversing down the alley and escaped before German infantry could organize a response. The entire maneuver took less than 30 seconds. The close-range urban fighting revealed another archer advantage. In city streets, where ranges collapsed to 100 meters or less, German armor's superior long-range gunnery became irrelevant. The 17-pounder's ability to penetrate any German armor at close range, combined with the archer's ability to fire and immediately escape, created conditions where British tank destroyers held distinct tactical advantage. German tanks operating in urban terrain had to treat every corner, every alley, every damaged building as a potential archer position, which paralyzed their mobility and made them vulnerable to exactly the ambush tactics the archer was designed to execute. German tactics adapted gradually. Wehrmacht forces began deploying infantry screens ahead of armor in urban areas, attempting to spot archer positions before tanks entered engagement range. They increased use of artillery and mortar fire against suspected British anti-tank positions, trying to suppress archers before they could fire. They adjusted advance routes to avoid obvious ambush locations, yet these adaptations slowed German movement considerably and consumed resources that might otherwise have been used for offensive operations. The archer forced German forces to fight differently, which was success in itself, regardless of the number of German vehicles actually destroyed. The victory that looked like retreat. The archer's greatest success was making tactical retreat, reversing away from the enemy into offensive action. Every military doctrine emphasized advancing toward the enemy, holding ground, and refusing to yield terrain. The archer doctrine said, "Fire and leave immediately, because survival to fight again is more valuable than holding specific ground." This violated conventional military culture, but proved devastatingly effective. German forces never developed adequate counters to archer tactics. Wehrmacht training emphasized aggressive action, rapid maneuver, and decisive engagement. The archer's hit-and-run approach frustrated these tactical preferences completely. German armor couldn't pursue archers effectively because the British vehicles' reverse speed and prepared escape routes meant pursuit led into potential ambush positions rather than catching fleeing enemies. German infantry couldn't suppress archers because the vehicles moved before suppressive fires could be organized. German artillery couldn't effectively engage archers because the target location data was obsolete before fire missions could be executed. The cumulative effect was German armor becoming cautious when operating in terrain where archers might be present. Caution meant slower advances, more conservative tactics, and reduced operational tempo, exactly the degradation British planners hoped to achieve. The Archer didn't need to destroy every German tank to be successful. It just needed to make German forces afraid of ambush enough that their operations slowed down. British doctrine recognized what the statistics confirmed. The Archer was succeeding not through revolutionary technology, but through disciplined application of sound tactical principles. Achieve surprise, fire accurately, escape quickly, reposition, and repeat. These weren't complicated concepts, but they worked consistently because German forces couldn't counter them effectively without accepting unacceptable operational tempo penalties. The vehicle that looked backwards fought forwards more effectively than many conventional designs. The gun pointed the wrong way, the crew fought in reverse, and the entire concept violated normal military vehicle design. Yet it killed German armor reliably, survived to fight repeatedly, and convinced Wehrmacht forces that any suspicious position might contain a British tank destroyer ready to fire and vanish before retaliation was possible. Ernst Kuhn, recovered from his wounds and sitting in a prisoner of war camp in early 1945, understood finally what had destroyed his tank. The British hadn't built a better Panzer. They'd built something completely different that fought by different rules. The Archer didn't try to match German armor in direct combat. It simply appeared, killed, and disappeared, repeating that cycle until German armor was destroyed or too cautious to advance effectively. It wasn't cowardice, he explained to fellow prisoners who'd also encountered archers. It was tactical intelligence. They understood that surviving to kill again was better than fighting to the death once. Their backwards tank destroyed more German vehicles than if it had tried to fight conventionally. We mocked it when we first saw it. We stopped mocking after it killed us. That was the Archer's triumph, looking absurd while being deadly, appearing to retreat while winning tactically, fighting backwards while moving the war forward. Britain's weird turretless tank destroyer with the gun facing the wrong way proved that sometimes the most unconventional solution is the right one, especially when the enemy assumes you'll fight conventionally. The Germans learned eventually, but they learned too late. By the time Wehrmacht tactical doctrine incorporated warnings about British rear-facing tank destroyers that fought in reverse, the war was already lost. The Archers had done their work, killing German armor, slowing German advances, convincing German crews that no position was safe and no terrain offered security from British ambush. And all of it accomplished by driving backwards.